On the day of my wedding to Gu Bichuan, the heir to the Marquis of Pingxi, the streets were lined with wedding processions, and the air was filled with the clanging of gongs and drums. Then, a woman dressed in a plain white robe, her hair disheveled, stepped out into the heavy snow and stopped my wedding palanquin. She did not kneel to beg for mercy, nor did she weep bitterly. Instead, she stared straight at the groom seated atop his majestic steed, her voice hoarse yet resolute. Gu Bichuan, as you marry this noble lady today, I ask you just one thing. Have I ever truly been in your heart? Her question rang out with such piercing desperation, as if she were expending every ounce of her life's strength. The city's jubilant celebrations fell instantly silent. Everyone's gaze shifted between the newlyweds and the woman from the past. My future husband, Yu Beichuan, dressed in a crimson wedding robe, had veins bulging on the back of his hand as he gripped the reins, his face as pale as paper. He clenched his teeth tightly, saying nothing. Yet from his reddened eyes and trembling lips, I could see his inner turmoil and agony. Everyone assumed that I, the proud daughter of the Prime Minister's household, would be unable to bear such a humiliating insult, that I would tear back the veil on the spot to berate him, or weep my way back to the mansion. Even Gu Beichuan had braced himself for me to publicly call off the engagement, leaving him utterly disgraced. But I merely smiled softly from behind my red veil. My father taught me the art of politics for 10 years, not so I could quibble with a man over romantic trifles. This marriage decreed by the emperor is a union between the prime minister's and the marquise's households. Gu Bichuan is the marquise's sword, and I must be the one who wields it. Today's farce is a crisis, but it is also an opportunity. An opportunity for me to gain complete control over Gu Bichuan, to make him carry a lifetime of guilt toward me. I lifted the curtain of the wedding palanquin, and under the stunned gazes of the crowd stepped down myself to help up the woman shivering in the heavy snow. Facing her, and the guests lining the street, as well as my flustered husband, I spoke gently yet firmly. My dear, the word love is the most painful of all. But today is the joyous day of the marriage bestowed by His Majesty. It concerns the honor of the Prime Minister's and the Marquise's households, and even more so, the dignity of the imperial family. I accept your love, and as for you, the Gu family accepts you as well. The woman seemed taken aback by my reaction. In her script, I was supposed to be the malicious, domineering first wife, while she was the lone warrior fighting for love. My forgiveness threw her off balance. She froze in place, her lips trembling. I didn't come here to be a concubine. I just wanted an answer. Young lady, I interrupted softly. My voice was quiet, yet it carried an undeniable air of authority. I took her icy hand, applying a slight pressure with my fingertips, yet my face remained fixed in a proper smile. Have you come for an answer, or to ruin Gu Bichuan's future? I spoke this so softly that only the two of us could hear it. She jerked her head up, her pupils contracting sharply. I continued to smile, smoothing her disheveled hair at her temple, and whispered in a voice only she could hear. Today, His Majesty has bestowed a royal marriage, and the entire court is gathered here. If you cause a scene now, Gu Bichuan will be accused of defying imperial orders, lacks military discipline, and moral corruption. Do you wish to prove his love for you? Or do you want to see him impeached by the censorate, stripped of his military authority and reduced to a prisoner? Her face turned deathly pale in an instant, whiter than the snow on the ground. She loved Gu Bichuan. That was her Achilles' heel. As long as she still loved him, it would be the sharpest blade in my arsenal. Attendants, escort the young lady back to the mansion. I straightened up and resumed my dignified tone. This time she offered no resistance. Like a puppet, she let the maids support her as she obediently climbed into the small blue palanquin. The crisis was averted. The onlookers and guests began to whisper among themselves, and the tide of public opinion turned instantly. She truly is the daughter of the Chancellor's household. What poised TSK? That woman had no sense of propriety. She nearly got the crown prince killed. The legitimate wife, however, knows her place. Now that is the bearing of a proper matriarch. I listened to these remarks, my heart completely unmoved. Public opinion has always been the servant of the powerful. I turned and looked at Gu Bichuan on horseback. He was staring at me blankly, his eyes filled with shock, guilt, and a hint of barely perceptible awe. Very good. This was exactly the effect I wanted. I wanted not just a husband, but a political ally who would obey my every command. Guilt is the cheapest and most effective means of controlling a person. I reached out, smiling at him in the biting wind. Crown Prince, we're running late for the auspicious hour. Won't you dismount and lead me? Gu Beichuan snapped out of his daze. He swung himself down from the horse, his movements somewhat frantic, and took a few quick steps toward me. The moment he grasped my hand, his palm was burning hot and damp. Wanner, I'm sorry, he said, his voice hoarse. I gently clasped his hand in return, yet my fingernails dug slightly into his flesh through the crimson wedding robe. That pinch was meant to ensure he remembered today's pain. Your Highness, you're overreacting. I spoke softly, yet my eyes held a clear, icy chill. Husband and wife are one. We share both honor and disgrace. The debts of your past indiscretions shall naturally be repaid by me. Let's go. We mustn't keep Father and His Majesty waiting. Holding this sword that had yet to be sharpened, I stepped onto the red carpet and walked, step by step, through the gates of the Marquise's mansion. Every step was taken with unwavering steadiness. From this moment on, the inner quarters of the Marquis of Pingxi's mansion would be my battlefield, and the first enemy on this battlefield had already been locked away in a cage without a single drop of blood being shed. As night fell, red candles burned brightly. The bridal chamber was deathly silent. According to custom, this was the time to lift the veil and drink the wedding wine. But Gu Beichuan sat at the round table downing cup after cup of cold wine, never daring to approach the bed. That woman Su Qing had already been sent to the remote, listening to Snow Pavilion. Gu Beichuan's heart had likely flown there long ago. I was in no hurry, seated upright on the bridal bed. I lifted the veil myself. The heavy phoenix crown weighed down on my neck, causing a dull ache. I rose, walked to the dressing table, and facing the bronze mirror, slowly began to remove the jewels and ornaments from my hair. Waner. Gu Beichuan heard the sound, hastily set down his wine cup, and stood up, looking flustered. If you want to go, then go. I looked at him calmly through the bronze mirror. Gu Beichuan froze. A flicker of surprise crossed his face, followed by wild joy, and then even deeper guilt. Today is our wedding day. How could I? Gu Beichuan. I turned around and for the first time, addressed him by his full name. With the hairpins and ornaments removed, my long hair fell loose, losing some of its sharpness and gaining a touch of cool detachment. I looked at him, my gaze as calm as if I were reading a military report. Our marriage was arranged by His Majesty. This marriage was never about love from the start, but an alliance between the Prime Minister's house and the Marquise's house. The Prime Minister's house needs military power as a backing. The Marquise's house needs a civil official to speak for them in the court. It is a business deal. Gu Beichuan's expression darkened. In his youthful arrogance, he clearly could not accept such a stark reality. A business deal. He clenched his teeth. So in your eyes, am I nothing more than a pawn? Is that not the case? I asked in return, stepping closer to him. If you were not the heir to the Marquis of Pingxi, if you did not command the Guyu family army, would I have married you? Likewise, if I were not the legitimate daughter of the Prime Minister's household, would you have married me? Gu Beichuan fell silent. He could not refute it. Since this is a business arrangement, we must uphold integrity and follow the rules. I reached out and smoothed his slightly rumpled collar. The gesture was gentle, yet devoid of any hint of intimacy. I'll grant you the dignity befitting the wife of the Marquise's heir, clean up your messes, and protect your reputation. In exchange, you must give me the respect and authority I deserve. Miss Su Qing, I can tolerate that. But you must remember, the mistress of this Marquise's mansion can only be me, Lin Wan. As long as you do not favor a concubine over your wife, and do not let the Marquise's mansion become a laughingstock in the capital, I will not interfere with your true love. Gu Beichuan looked at me, his expression incredibly complex. He had likely never met a woman like this before. No tears, no jealousy, rational to the point of cruelty. Yet within that coldness lay the freedom he desired most. You really don't mind? He asked tentatively. I smiled and turned toward the bed. Your Highness, it is late. Whether you go to Tingshu Pavilion to comfort your beloved or stay here to fulfill your duties as a husband, the choice is yours. But let me give you a word of warning. Today is our wedding day. The Dowager and the Marquise are both waiting for tomorrow's tea ceremony. If you step out of this door tonight, Su Qing's days at the Marquise's mansion tomorrow will likely be very difficult. Having said that, I lay down without another word, turning my back to him. The room fell into a long, deathly silence. After a long while, I heard the sound of boots being removed, followed by a slight sink in the mattress beside me. Gu Beichuan lay down. His body was stiff, and he kept a full foot's distance from me. But he stayed. I closed my eyes, a faint smile curving my lips. Round 1. I won. By exploiting his guilt and his protective instinct toward Su Qing, I had successfully kept him in the bridal chamber. He thought he was protecting Su Qing, little knowing that this was just the beginning of my taming him. Emotions are such that the more they are suppressed, the more precious they seem. But if placed on a scale and weighed repeatedly against family, reputation, and future prospects, one day he will discover that so-called true love is in fact as light as a feather. The next morning, before dawn, I rose. Gu Beichuan was still fast asleep, his brow furrowed as if even his dreams offered him no peace. I did not wake him. Instead, I summoned Chun Dao, the maid for my dowry, and began to dress. Today's appearance must be dignified and imposing. A crimson, gold-embroidered peony patterned tunic, my hair piled high, adorned with a crimson gold phoenix hairpin, set with a pearl. This ensemble was enough to take one's breath away. By the time I was fully dressed, Gu Beichuan had finally awakened. Looking at me in my finery, his gaze was somewhat dazed as if he were still adjusting to his new status as a married man. Your Highness, it is time to present tea to our parents. I handed him a cup of warm water, my tone calm. On the way to the main hall, Gu Beichuan hesitated several times, as if he wanted to say something but held back. I knew what he was worried about. He was worried about Su Qing. Sure enough, as soon as we reached the entrance to the main hall, we heard the sound of shattering porcelain coming from inside, mixed with the furious scolding of my mother-in-law, the lady of the Marquis of Pingxi. You shameless creature, who told you to go out dressed like that? Gu Beichuan's expression darkened, and he took a step forward, ready to storm inside. I reached out to stop him. Your Highness. I looked at him, my gaze calm. That is Mother teaching her lessons in propriety. If you go in now, are you intending to publicly defy Mother and cement Su Qing's reputation as a femme fatale? Gu Beichuan halted in his tracks, his fists clenched so tightly they cracked. But Qing'er doesn't understand the rules. Precisely because she doesn't, she must learn them. I said calmly. You can protect her for a moment, but can you protect her for a lifetime? In the inner quarters of this Marquise's mansion, without rules, it's a dead end. Having said that, I paid him no further heed, smoothed my sleeves, and stepped over the threshold. In the main hall, the atmosphere was tense. A woman dressed in a plain white gown knelt on the floor, a overturned teacup beside her. Su Qing held her head high, her face a mix of stubbornness and grievance. Her eyes were red-rimmed, yet she bit her lip tightly, refusing to let a single tear fall. Seated at the head of the table were the Marquis of Pingxi and the Marquise. The Marquise's chest heaved with rage, the hand pointing at Su Qing was trembling. On this joyous occasion, she's dressed in white. Who is she mourning? It was indeed inauspicious. But this was precisely Su Qing's style. In her eyes, white represented purity, the unblemished love between her and Gu Bichuan. But to these powerful figures, it was bad luck and a sign of disrespect. Your daughter-in-law pays her respects to father and mother. I bowed with perfect poise, as if I hadn't noticed the mess on the floor. Gu Beichuan followed behind me and knelt to pay his respects as well. Lady Hao's expression softened slightly, but when she saw Gu Beichuan, she couldn't help but shoot him a glare. Just look at the fine specimen you've brought home. Gu Beichuan kept his head down, not daring to utter a word. I straightened up, my gaze falling on Su Qing. Miss Su, I spoke with a smile, my tone as gentle as if I were speaking to my own younger sister. Please calm down, mother. Miss Su comes from a commoner background. It's only natural she wouldn't understand the taboos of high society households. Su Qing suddenly turned to look at me, her eyes brimming with wariness. I paid it no mind and turned to instruct Chuntao behind me. Chuntao, go fetch that set of peony red satin robes of mine and present it to Miss Su. Now that she's entered the Marquise's estate, she's family. If she dresses too plainly, those who don't know might think our household mistreats her. The Marquise's wife snorted coldly. Wanner truly understands the bigger picture. Unlike certain people, so petty and unfit for public view. Su Qing's face flushed crimson in an instant. She wanted to retort to say that her dress was Gu Bichuan's favorite, to say she didn't care about fine clothes. But in this setting, in this hall where social hierarchy reigned supreme, every word of her defense would ring hollow and ridiculous. Aren't you going to thank the young mistress? The Marquise snapped. Su Qing trembled and looked to Gu Beichuan for help. Gu Beichuan turned his head away, unable to meet her gaze. In that moment, the light in Su Qing's eyes dimmed slightly. She finally lowered her proud head, her voice as soft as a mosquito's buzz. This humble servant thanks the young madam for her kindness. Wrong. I lifted my teacup, gently skimming off the foam, and corrected her casually. Without presenting tea or being entered into the family registry, you cannot be considered a concubine. At best, she's merely a concubine. Miss Su, from now on, you may refer to yourself as this servant. Su Qing jerked her head up, staring at me in disbelief. Gu Bichuan couldn't hold back any longer. Wanner, isn't this going too far? Too far. I set down the teacup. The porcelain clinked with a crisp sound. Prince, without rules, there can be no order. If we make an exception today, what will become of the Marquise's household rules in the future? If you're not satisfied, you're free to send her away to be a concubine elsewhere. I won't object in the slightest. Gu Bichuan fell silent. He couldn't bear to send her away. Sending her away would mean losing the protection of the Marquise's household. As a vulnerable woman, Su Qing wouldn't be able to survive a single step in the capital. He had no choice but to yield. In this game, I leveraged the influence of the Marquise and the rules of the Marquis's estate. I trampled Su Qing's dignity underfoot. Not only did I trample it, but I also earned a reputation for generosity. After all, I did bestow clothes upon her, and even interceded on her behalf. After the tea-offering incident, I did not press my advantage or seek to destroy Su Qing completely. On the contrary, I began to pamper her. I assigned her Tingshui Xuan, a secluded courtyard on the western side of the Marquise's estate. The setting was serene and tranquil, filled with the plum blossoms she loved. Not only did I exempt her from her daily morning and evening duties, but I also specifically instructed the kitchen to prepare light, delicate dishes tailored to her tastes every day. I even bestowed upon her, as if in a steady stream, some of the gold and silver jewelry from my dowry. To outsiders' eye, the young mistress seemed like a living incarnation of a bodhisattva. Even the servants in the Marquise's mansion whispered among themselves, saying that the young mistress was kind-hearted, treating a concubine without official status so well. Gu Bichuan was deeply moved by this. That evening, he made a point of returning to our chambers early. His gaze toward me softened with tenderness. Wanner, thank you. He held my hand and said sincerely, I never expected you to be so kind to Chinger. I sneered inwardly. Kind? There is a method in this world of killing without spilling blood, known as praise to death. Tingshi Pavilion is a lovely place, so peaceful. As I undid his sash, I spoke in a gentle tone. Miss Su prefers quiet and loves to read and write. I couldn't bear to let mundane chores disturb her, so I haven't assigned her any duties, nor do I allow the servants to disturb her without reason. She just needs to live a peaceful life in the courtyard. Gu Bichuan nodded repeatedly. Exactly. Qing'er has a detached nature. She hates nothing more than trouble. Ha, a detached nature. In this vast, secluded mansion, without duties, there is no power. Without servants coming and going, there are no eyes and ears. What I've given her is a prison of silk robes and sumptuous food. I intend to turn her into a canary. She'll know nothing and be capable of nothing, except waiting for a man's favor. I'll smooth out her sharp edges and wear down her spirit. I'll transform her from a fiery woman who dared to stop a palanquin in the snow into a woman of the inner chambers who stares blankly out the window, consumed by anxiety and fear of loss. Oh, right. I mentioned it as if in passing. The spring hunt is in a few days. Father said he'd like you to go and gain some experience. That's a good opportunity to make an impression before His Majesty. Gu Bichuan's eyes lit up. Really? Did father-in-law really say that? Of course. I nodded with a smile. It's just, this trip will take half a month. What about Miss Su? Gu Bichuan hesitated for a moment, then said firmly, duties come first. Chinger is reasonable. She'll understand. See, that's men for you. In the face of so-called career prospects, love always has to take a back seat. And my job is to keep providing him with these duties. To keep him busy, to help him climb the ladder, to drive him farther and farther away from that woman who can only offer him romantic trysts. And what of Su Qing? She waits day after day in that secluded courtyard, waiting for Gu Bichuan to visit her, waiting for him to take her out. But Gu Bichuan will only grow busier. Her waiting will eventually turn to disappointment. And when disappointment piles up, it turns to resentment. By then, I won't have to lift a finger. This pair of unlucky lovebirds will crumble from within on their own. The spring hunt was approaching. Gu Bichuan began leaving early and returning late, spending his days at the military camp on the outskirts of the capital, training his troops. This was precisely where he excelled. As long as he held a gun in his hands, he was that spirited young general, not the weakling caught between his mother-in-law, wife, and concubines. I wasn't idle either. I began taking charge of the household affairs at the Marquise's mansion, auditing accounts, verifying receipts, and establishing my authority. The skills of a prime minister's legitimate daughter were, in truth, somewhat overkill for these domestic affairs. But I had to do it. I intended to make every soul in the Marquise's estate know who the true master of the house was. In just half a month, I had transformed the once lax estate into a well-oiled machine. I sold off the embezzling steward and flogged the servants who had been shirking their duties. Through a combination of kindness and firmness, my word now carried more weight in the Marquise's estate than even Gu Bichuan's. That evening, Gu Bichuan returned home unusually early. He was still clad in his military uniform, covered in dust, yet he looked exceptionally dashing. Wanner, I'm back. He strode into the room, his face flushed with excitement. Today at camp, I demonstrated that formation you taught me. Even Deputy General Zhang called it brilliant. I set down the ledger I was holding, rose to greet him, and took the helmet he handed me. That's the pocket formation Father used when he was suppressing bandits back in the day. Though simple, it's most effective in mountainous terrain. I smiled as I handed him a damp cloth. The Crown Prince is naturally gifted. He grasps things instantly. Gu Bichuan wiped his face, his eyes sparkling as he looked at me. For the past half-month, I've taken every opportunity during our nightly chats to teach him military strategy and analyze the political situation at court. At first, he was somewhat dismissive, believing that a woman couldn't understand matters of state and military affairs. But after he followed my advice to resolve several troubles within the army, his attitude toward me changed completely. What had started as guilt and awe has now turned into reliance. This is exactly the effect I was aiming for. I want him to understand that all Su Qing can offer him is a bowl of hot soup and a few sweet nothings. What I can offer him, however, is a promising future, the very foundation of his standing in the court. Are you tired, Crown Prince? Dinner is ready. I guided him to his seat. Just as he picked up his chopsticks, a commotion suddenly erupted outside the door. I want to see the Crown Prince. Let me in. It was Su Qing's voice. Gu Bichuan frowned and set down his chopsticks. Chuntao lifted the curtain and entered, looking troubled. Young madam, Miss Su is causing a scene outside the courtyard. She says she's ill and wants to see the Crown Prince. Gu Bichuan sprang to his feet. Ill? How could she be ill? He instinctively started to head for the door. I remained seated, not moving, merely tapping the table lightly. Young master. The voice was soft, yet it stopped Gu Bichuan in his tracks. He turned to look at me, a hint of pleading in his eyes. Wanner, she's ill. I'll just go check on her and be right back. Sit down. My tone was flat, yet it carried a chill. Whether she is physically ill or suffering from a broken heart, you know better than I do. Tingshi Pavilion has a charcoal fire, tonics, and a physician on call. If she is truly ill, she should seek the physician, not you. I picked up my chopsticks and placed a piece of his favorite braised pork into his bowl. Tomorrow is the spring hunt, and His Majesty will be in attendance. If you go to Tingshu Pavilion tonight, catching a cold is the least of your worries. If those with ulterior motives find out that the Crown Prince of Pingxi, on the eve of the imperial examinations, disregarded military discipline and propriety for the sake of a concubine, tell me, do you think the censorate's memorials will pile up on His Majesty's imperial desk tomorrow? Gu Baichuan's face paled. He glanced hesitantly toward the door, then back at me. Outside, Su Qing's sobs still drifted faintly through the air. Bichuan, I'm so cold. The voice was so plaintive and sorrowful that even a man would have his heart broken by it. But Gu Bichuan was a soldier, and above all, a man with political ambitions. Under my guidance, that ambition had already been ignited. He stood there, torn between two worlds. I didn't press him. I simply ate in silence. I knew I was forcing him to make a choice. love, shivering in the cold wind, or power and glory within his grasp. A long time passed. Gu Bichuan sat back down. He picked up his chopsticks. His hands trembled slightly, but he refused to look outside again. Send for the doctor, he ordered Chun Dao in a cold, hard voice. Tell her to focus on getting well and stop causing trouble. Yes. Chun Dao took her leave. The sobbing outside the door gradually faded away. I watched Gu Bichuan shovel food into his mouth, as if venting some pent-up frustration. I ladled a bowl of soup for him and placed it gently by his side. The crown prince is wise, I said softly. In that moment, I knew Su Qing had lost. She had lost because of the true feelings she took such pride in. In this game of power, true feelings are the cheapest bargaining chip, and this was only the beginning. On the eve of the spring hunt, Gu Bichuan couldn't hold back any longer and pleaded with me. He wanted to take Su Qing along. His reason was quite noble. Qinger grew up in the streets and has never seen the grandeur of the imperial hunting grounds. She only asks to be a sword-bearing maid, just to catch a glimpse from afar. Looking into Gu Bichuan's eyes, filled with anticipation, I set down my teacup and smiled. All right, I agreed without hesitation. Gu Bichuan clearly hadn't expected me to be so agreeable. He paused in surprise, then burst into delight. Wanner, you really are. But I have one condition. I cut short his effusive gratitude. She is a concubine. According to protocol, she is not qualified to accompany us. If she's to go, she must disguise herself as a lowly servant maid. She cannot ride in a carriage, must not show her face, and above all, must not break protocol in the presence of the nobles. Can you guarantee that? Gu Bichuan nodded repeatedly. Of course. She said she'd endure any hardship as long as she could stay by my side. I lowered my gaze, hiding the sarcasm in my eyes. Endure hardship. A woman like Su Qing fancies that love can conquer all. Yet she fails to realize that in a place as rigidly hierarchical as the imperial hunting grounds, a lowly status is an original sin. I will let Gu Bichuan see it with his own eyes. His true love, whom he treasures like a precious gem, will prove utterly out of place and utterly unpresentable when crushed by the machinations of power. The next morning, the large entourage set out. I sat in the spacious, comfortable carriage of the Marquise's estate, surrounded by brocade upholstery and soft cushions, with the scent of incense wafting through the air. Gu Bichuan rode his horse alongside the carriage, guarding it. As for Su Qing, dressed in a drab coarse cloth outfit, she was mixed in with the rear convoy transporting supplies, stumbling along behind us. I discreetly lifted a corner of the curtain. I saw Gu Bichuan glancing back at me, repeatedly. He was feeling heartache, and rightly so. Every ounce of that heartache he feels now will turn into humiliating embarrassment once we reach the hunting grounds. After all, some chasms cannot be bridged by love alone. That is class. It is the gulf between the daughter of a minister and a commoner's daughter, a difference as vast as heaven and earth. At the imperial hunting grounds, banners blocked out the sun. The emperor himself was present, and the entire court, civil and military officials, imperial relatives, and nobles had gathered here. This was a feast of power, as well as a silent contest. As the heir apparent to the Marquis of Pingxi and a young general, Gu Bichuan was naturally the center of everyone's attention. Dressed in the hunting attire befitting a first-rank noble lady, I rode a chestnut horse, keeping pace with him. Whether it was the grace with which I guided my horse or my polished responses while exchanging pleasantries with the other ladies, I executed everything flawlessly. The gazes directed my way were all filled with admiration and envy. The Marquis of Pingxi is truly blessed to have such a virtuous wife. The young mistress of the Guyu family is not only breathtakingly beautiful, but her skill in riding and archery truly befits the daughter of a military family. Hearing these compliments, Gu Bichuan stood even straighter. I had given the man all the face he needed. However, a sudden turn of events occurred during the luncheon. The emperor was in high spirits today and had ordered a banquet for his ministers outside the camp. Gu Bichuan was surrounded by several princes, toasting him and discussing the morning's hunt. I stood nearby, skillfully deflecting a few sharp remarks on his behalf while subtly flattering the princes. The atmosphere was just right. Suddenly, a figure covered in dust and dirt rushed over. She held a water skin in her hands. "Young master, please have a drink. I can see your lips are parched." It was Su Qing. She must have simply couldn't hold back any longer, or perhaps she was unwilling to be forgotten in the corner. She pushed past the guards' attempts to stop her, desperate to display her thoughtfulness in front of everyone. In that moment, the air froze. The princes set down their cups and watched the scene with half smiles. The noble ladies nearby covered their mouths to stifle their laughter, their eyes brimming with contempt. On such an occasion, how dare a lowly maid rush straight to the imperial presence and interrupt the conversation between the princes and high officials? This was a grave act of disrespect. It was also a sign of utter lack of manners. Gu Bichuan's face instantly turned the color of a pig's liver. He looked at Su Qing, her clothes in tatters and her hair disheveled, and in his eyes there was none of his usual tenderness, only deep terror and shame. "Which camp's servant are you? How dare you be so disrespectful?" The third prince frowned and barked coldly. Su Qing shuddered in fear, and the water skin in her hand clattered to the ground. Water splashed onto Gu Bichuan's brand new combat boots. She looked frantically at Gu Bichuan, tears welling up in her eyes. "Bichuan, I was just worried about you." That single word, Bichuan, only served to amplify the whispers around them. a mere servant addressing the crown prince by his given name. Gu Bichuan froze in place, wishing the ground would swallow him whole. He wanted to rebuke her, but the words wouldn't come. The situation was about to spiral out of control. If the emperor noticed the commotion here and charged Gu Bichuan with failing to discipline his subordinates, all his efforts over the past 6 months would be for naught. It was time for me to step in. I dismounted and strode over to Su Qing in a few strides. Smack! A sharp slap landed hard across Su Qing's face. The entire hall fell silent. My face was as cold as ice, my voice icy and authoritative. You insolent slave. The crown prince is currently discussing matters of state with their highnesses. How dare a lowly servant like you interrupt? Guards, drag this ill-mannered girl away and punish her with 20 military strokes as atonement. Su Qing clutched her face, staring at me in shock, as if she didn't recognize me at all. Gu Bichuan was also taken aback. I turned around and performed a standard curtsy before the princes, my expression composed. I apologize for the disturbance, your highnesses. This is a new maid in the household. She is a bit slow-witted. She knows only to be fiercely loyal to her mistress, but she does not understand the proper boundaries of rank and respect. For her rudeness toward your highness today, it is my fault for failing to discipline her properly. I shall punish her severely once we return to the manor. The third prince glanced at my composure, then at Gu Bichuan, and his expression softened. Never mind, since she is a servant of Lady Gu, her loyalty is commendable, even if she is a bit dim-witted. My lord, governing a household is like commanding an army. One must follow the example of your esteemed wife, and be clear in both rewards and punishments. Gu Bichuan felt as if he'd been granted a pardon, and immediately clasped his hands in respect. Your highness speaks wisely. My wife is indeed more disciplined than I. The commotion was quelled before it could escalate. Su Qing was dragged away by the guards, still whimpering, but no one paid her any further attention. I stood beside Gu Bichuan and brushed the water droplets from his boots. My movements were gentle, but my gaze was cold. Gu Bichuan looked at me with a complex expression. In that moment, he realized clearly. The woman who had only ever brought him water had nearly ruined him. Yet this wife of his who had slapped that woman so hard had saved his life and preserved his dignity. In the face of power, gentleness is poison. Ruthlessness is the antidote. Inside the camp tent that evening, Gu Bichuan sat on the edge of the bed, silent. From outside the tent came the faint, intermittent moans of Su Qing after she had been flogged, carried in and out by the wind. In the past, Gu Bichuan would have rushed out long ago. But now, he didn't move. The shame he felt that day still lashed at his pride like a whip. Are you still blaming me for hitting her? I took off my heavy armor, wearing only my undergarments, and sat across from him, pouring him a cup of hot tea. Gu Bichuan looked up, his eyes weary. No, I know you did it for my own good. The third prince's words carried great weight. If I hadn't intervened today, once word reached the censorate, tomorrow's memorial accusing you would read, favoring a concubine to the detriment of one's wife, disrupting the moral order. My tone was calm, as if I were analyzing a chess game. Bichuan, you must understand. In this circle, love doesn't matter. Maintaining appearances is what matters most. Su Qing, she doesn't belong here. Gu Bichuan gripped his teacup so tightly, his knuckles turned white. I know. His voice was hoarse. But she has been with me for 3 years after all. Then keep her in the inner courtyard, provide her with fine clothes and sumptuous food, and let her live a peaceful life. I reached out and gently placed my hand over the back of his. But don't let her come to gatherings like this anymore. You're destined for great things. The people by your side must be able to uphold your reputation. Gu Bichuan looked at me and clasped my hand in his. His palm was broad and strong, yet it trembled slightly at that moment. Wanner, I'm so glad you're here. By the way, I changed the subject at just the right moment, pulling a sealed letter from my sleeve. Father sent this. There's a hunt tomorrow. His Majesty plans to set an ambush in the northern part of the hunting grounds to test the young general's ability to adapt. Here is a map of the terrain and several strategies Father devised to break through the encirclement. Gu Bichuan's eyes lit up instantly. All romantic entanglements were cast aside in that moment. He took the letter and unfolded it as if it were a priceless treasure, studying it intently. Brilliant. My father-in-law truly is a master strategist. Here, if we use light cavalry to flank them from the side. He excitedly pulled me in to discuss it, his eyes sparkling and his spirit soaring. I listened with a smile, occasionally interjecting a word or two to highlight the key points. The moans outside the tent continued, but the man inside could no longer hear them. His heart had already been filled to the brim with power and ambition. Su Qing thought she lost because of her status, but that wasn't the whole story. She lost because she didn't understand men. What a man loves most is never a woman, but the version of himself that makes him stronger. Tonight, I am not merely his wife. I am his strategist, his comrade in arms, the ladder by which he climbs to the pinnacle of power. This bond is 10,000 times stronger than so-called true love. After returning to the Marquise's mansion following the spring hunt, Gu Bichuan had changed. Thanks to his outstanding performance during the hunt, not only did he take first place, but he also received the Emperor's personal commendation, along with a hint that he might be promoted to the Ministry of War for further training. This was real, tangible power. In comparison, Su Qing, who had embarrassed him before the Emperor, had become a thorn in his side. A thorn that could not be removed, yet could not be touched. For 3 full days after returning to the mansion, Gu Bichuan did not set foot in Tingshu Pavilion even once. He shut himself in his study, sorting through military affairs, or came to my courtyard to discuss vacancies in the Ministry of War with me. Su Qing panicked. She began sending people to invite him frequently, bringing soup, medicine, and hand-embroidered pouches. Those items piled up on the desk in his study, but Gu Bichuan didn't even glance at them. "Madam," Shentao whispered as she combed my hair, "someone has come from Tingshu Pavilion again. They say Miss Su's old injury hasn't healed. She has a persistent high fever, and she wishes to see the Crown Prince." I looked at my reflection in the mirror and smiled faintly. That trick again. The story of the boy who cried wolf. If you tell it too many times, no one will believe it. "Did you tell the Crown Prince?" "I did." Shentao pursed her lips. "The Crown Prince is reviewing official documents. He merely said to have a doctor examine her, and if that doesn't cure her, to find another doctor." I let out a soft laugh, just as I expected. Once a man begins weighing the pros and cons, his heart grows harder than stone. But I cannot let him remain so unyielding. For too much of a good thing is as bad as too little. If I push Su Qing too far and she resorts to desperate measures, it will only cause more trouble. What I want is to boil the frog in gradually heating water. To cut the flesh with a dull knife, I'll take a bowl of ginseng soup to the study to see the Crown Prince. I stood up and smoothed out the hem of my robe. When I arrived at the study, Gu Bichuan was frowning deeply over a pile of official documents. When he saw me enter, his furrowed brow relaxed slightly. "Wanner, you're here." I set down the ginseng soup, walked behind him, and began massaging his temples. "I hear Miss Su is quite ill." Gu Bichuan stiffened and snorted coldly. "She's just faking it again, isn't she?" After taking those blows at the hunting grounds, the imperial physician examined her and found no broken bones. "How come she's worse, now that she's back? You should still go see her." I urged him gently. "She is, after all, a woman. Her feelings are delicate. If you keep refusing to go, she might get fixated on it. What if she does something foolish? It wouldn't reflect well on your reputation if word got out. Just think of it as going to sue the pet." Gu Bichuan fell silent for a moment, then sighed. "You're the more magnanimous one." He patted my hand. "All right, I'll go see her. But I can't stand listening to her whining and crying. You'll come with me." A gleam flashed in my eyes. He wants me to accompany him. That suits me just fine. What could be more despairing than the legitimate wife accompanying her husband to visit his mistress? That is absolute control. It is a declaration of sovereignty. And above all, it tells Su Qing, "If you want to see him, you'll have to get my approval first." Inside Tingshu Pavilion, the air was thick with the smell of medicine. Su Qing lay pale, faced on the bed, looking decidedly haggard. When she saw Gu Bichuan enter, her eyes lit up with a startling brilliance, and she struggled to sit up. "Bichuan, you're finally here. I knew you wouldn't abandon me." However, when she saw me following closely behind, supporting Gu Bichuan's arm, that light in her eyes instantly faded, replaced by shock and venom. "How did you come too?" she ground out through clenched teeth. I released Gu Bichuan, stepped forward, and tucked the blanket around her with impeccable grace. "My younger sister is gravely ill. As the mistress of the household, it is only natural for me to come and visit. The Crown Prince is busy with official duties. It took me quite some time to persuade him to make time for this." Su Qing glared at Gu Bichuan. "You persuaded him? Bichuan, do you need her to persuade you to come see me?" Gu Bichuan frowned and said impatiently, "Qinger, how dare you speak to the young mistress like that? Wanner has broken her heart for this family. Yet not only do you show no consideration, you're throwing a tantrum here. I am very busy. There are 1,001 matters at the Ministry of War. How could I possibly have time to indulge in romantic trinkets with you every day?" Su Qing felt as if she'd been struck by lightning. Her lips trembled. "Romantic trinkets? You used to say you loved me precisely because I was so innocent and unworldly. That was then." Gu Bichuan cut her off, a hint of weariness toward the past in his tone. "People have to grow up eventually. Look at Wanner, then look at you. Wanner can help me analyze the political situation, manage the Marquise's estate, and secure my standing before His Majesty. And you, aside from crying, throwing tantrums, and causing me trouble, what else can you do?" Those words cut deep. They stripped Su Qing of her dignity completely. I stood to the side, eyes downcast and silent, but inwardly I applauded Gu Bichuan. That blade was becoming sharper and sharper. Su Qing stared blankly at the man who had once loved her deeply. She finally understood. The young general who had promised to love her for a lifetime in the snow had died. He had died in the allure of power. He had died in the web of reality I had so carefully woven. "Enough, Crown Prince." I spoke at just the right moment, breaking the suffocating awkwardness. "My sister needs rest. Let's not disturb her. The doctor has prescribed medicine. I'll have someone oversee its preparation and delivery. Sister, just focus on getting well. If you need anything, just tell Chundao." With that, I tugged at Gu Bichuan's sleeve. Gu Bichuan turned and walked away without a second glance. "Bichuan." Su Qing's heart-wrenching cry rang out behind us. Gu Bichuan paused in his steps, but did not turn back. I linked my arm through his and walked out of Tingshu Pavilion. The winter sun fell upon us, a bit cold, yet blindingly bright. "Don't come here so often in the future," Gu Bichuan said coolly. "It's annoying to listen to." "I'll do as the Crown Prince says," I replied meekly, but I knew Su Qing wouldn't give up so easily. She was the kind of woman who would burn everything for love. Since a gentle approach wouldn't work, and since playing the victim was useless, she would now resort to extremes. and I had already prepared a trap, waiting for her to walk right into it. As long as she dared to harbor any ill intentions, that would be the day she met her end. It would also be my final battle to completely subdue Gu Bichuan and take control of the Marquise's estate. The Lantern Festival, with lights as bright as day. The capital's night was ablaze with color, the perfect time for lovesick men and women to pour out their hearts to one another. But for politicians, holidays were never meant for rest. They were for networking and forging alliances. Tonight, I had arranged a crucial secret meeting for Gu Bichuan. The venue was a private room on the top floor of Fanlu. The guest of honor was the Crown Prince's confidant, the Vice Minister of Personnel, who held the power to appoint officials in the Ministry of War. This was a crucial step in determining whether Gu Bichuan could transition from a military commander into the inner circle of the Ministry of War. To this end, I had spent a full half-month preparing, even going to great lengths to procure a rare, one-of-a-kind ancient text as a gift for the Vice Minister. Bichuan, tonight's banquet must succeed. Failure is not an option. In the study, I helped Gu Bichuan adjust his attire, my tone stern. You must personally present that fragment of 70 The Art of War by General Wei to the Vice Minister. Remember, focus on practical matters of border defense and avoid discussing court factional strife. The Vice Minister most admires those who get things done. Gu Bichuan nodded solemnly, his expression a mix of tension and excitement. Rest assured, Wanner, I understand. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. His eyes were now filled entirely with the power and status he was about to seize. As for Su Qing, he's probably long forgotten her. But I haven't. I know that today is the Lantern Festival. It's the day Su Qing and Gu Bichuan pledged their love to each other. On this very night 3 years ago, they met beneath the lanterns and vowed to be one couple for a lifetime. For a woman like Su Qing, who regarded love as a faith, tonight was her last lifeline. She would certainly make her move. And I had specifically ordered half the guards outside the study removed, leaving a convenient opening for her love. Your Highness, it is getting late. We should be leaving. I reminded him softly. Gu Bichuan turned to pick up the silk-lined box on the desk, the gift containing Severdy, The Art of War by General Wei, which would serve as our ticket in tonight. Yet his hand froze. The desk was empty. The silk-lined box was gone. Where is it? Gu Bichuan's voice shot up instantly, tinged with panic. It was a precious gift meant to curry favor with the Crown Prince's confidant. To arrive empty-handed would not only be rude, but would also trample the Marquise's family's reputation into the dirt. It might even be seen as a slight against the Crown Prince. What's wrong? I feigned ignorance and stepped forward. The book, that ancient text, is gone. Gu Bichuan was so flustered that sweat beaded on his forehead as he began ransacking the cabinets. It was definitely here just a moment ago. Don't panic. I pressed his hand down and calmly scanned the room. The study was a restricted area. No unauthorized personnel were allowed inside. Apart from his personal attendant, there was only... My gaze fell on a pale pink sheet of stationery in the corner of the desk. Resting on top of it was a crudely crafted rabbit-shaped paper lantern. That was Su Qing's handiwork. Gu Bichuan followed my gaze, his pupils suddenly contracting. His hands trembling, he picked up the note. On it was a single line of elegant, yet strikingly jarring handwriting. Bichuan, on this night 3 years ago, we pledged our love by the light of this lantern. I'll wait for you at our usual spot. Don't be late. If you want your things back, come and get them yourself. Boom! It was as if I could hear the string called reason snapping inside Gu Bichuan's head. He clenched the note so tightly his knuckles turned white, and the veins on the back of his hand bulged. There was not a trace of emotion on his face at his lover's summons, only overwhelming rage and fear that ran deep to his very bones. That book was more than just a book. It was his future. It was the future of the Hao Mansion. What Su Qing had stolen wasn't a gift. It was Gu Bichuan's lifeline. Damn it. Damn it. Gu Bichuan gritted his teeth, forcing the words out through clenched jaws. Has she lost her mind? How could she treat something like this as a joke? I watched the scene unfold, a cold smile playing on my lips. In Su Qing's eyes, this was merely a bit of flirtation, a little ploy to get him to keep their appointment. Just as the romance novels describe, a woman hides her lover's personal belongings to lure him out. It's all part of the romance. But she didn't understand. In the game of power, this kind of romance could cost you your head. Your Highness. I spoke calmly, my voice like an icy spring dousing his panic. Getting angry now won't help. There's still 1 hour until the appointed time. Where is this usual place, she mentioned. Gu Bichuan took a deep breath, his face ashen. South of the city, the dilapidated temple. That was where they first met. How romantic. Unfortunately, after tonight, that place would become the grave where their love was buried. Saddle the horses. I acted decisively. I'll go with you. We must not only retrieve the book, but also eliminate this threat, once and for all. Gu Bichuan looked up at me sharply, a flash of ruthlessness crossing his eyes. All right. This time, he didn't hesitate. The dilapidated temple in the south of the city was overgrown with weeds. The cold wind howled, whipping up the remnants of snow on the ground. Su Qing had carefully set the scene. The ruined temple was hung with lanterns she had made herself. The flickering dim candlelight barely managed to create a false sense of warmth. She wore the same pale pink dress she'd worn when they first met 3 years ago. Shivering in the cold wind, she still gazed toward the doorway with eager anticipation. In her hands, she clutched the silk-lined box tightly. When the sound of hooves echoed, her eyes lit up. Bichuan, I knew you'd come. She cheered and rushed toward the doorway. However, what greeted her was not a warm embrace. Instead, it was a vicious kick from Gu Bichuan. Thud. Caught off guard, Su Qing was sent flying and landed hard on a pile of dry hay. The silk-lined box slipped from her grasp and rolled aside. Ah! She let out a scream, clutching her chest as she stared in disbelief at the man whose face was twisted with fury. Bichuan, you hit me. Gu Bichuan paid her no mind. He lunged forward like a madman, snatched up the silk-lined box, and opened it. The book was still there. He let out a long sigh of relief and slumped against the pillar, completely drained. As long as the book was safe, his future was secure. Only after confirming the treasure's safety did he turn his head, fixing Su Qing with a gaze as cold as that of an enemy. Su Qing, are you trying to kill me? Do you have any idea what this is? Do you know who I'm supposed to meet tonight? You stole this to blackmail me. Are you trying to drag the entire Pingxi Marquise's household down with you? His roar echoed through the dilapidated temple, causing dust to rattle down from the ceiling. Su Qing was completely dumbfounded. She shook her head, weeping. I didn't know. I just wanted to see you. Today is the Lantern Festival. It's the day we pledged our love. Have you forgotten? I just wanted you to accompany me and release a lantern, like we used to. What have I done wrong? What have you done wrong? Gu Bichuan laughed bitterly in his fury, his laughter shrill. Your mistake is that you're stupid. It's your selfishness. In your eyes, is there anything besides those romantic trifles? For the sake of your ridiculous sense of ritual, you actually dared to tamper with my official documents and ruin my important plans. Su Qing, Gu Bichuan, must have been blind to nearly ruin my life for a woman like you. Every word was like a knife, torturing Su Qing's heart. The love she had once taken pride in had, in that moment, turned into a joke. Her so-called romance, in the face of reality, had become evidence of her guilt. I stood at the temple entrance, quietly watching the scene unfold. I didn't intervene, nor did I speak. The time was right. The last shred of affection Gu Bichuan had for Su Qing had been completely severed by this book-stealing incident. All that remained was loathing and fear. Fear that this woman might lose her mind at any moment and do something else to harm the family's interests. When a man begins to fear a woman, that is when he wants to eliminate her. Su Qing collapsed on the ground, weeping her heart out. Gu Bichuan, you have such a cruel heart. You said you'd protect me for the rest of my life. You said I was the one you loved most. Gu Bichuan wore an expression of utter disgust, and murderous intent flickered in his eyes. His hand rested on the sword at his waist. Since you love bringing up the past so much, I'll send you to the underworld so you can savor those memories at your leisure. Clang! The long sword slid half an inch from its sheath, its cold steel gleaming menacingly. Su Qing screamed in terror and curled into a ball. She never could have imagined that the lover who had once sworn undying devotion to her would now try to kill her. Your Highness. I stepped forward, extended a finger, and gently pressed it against the hilt of his sword. Don't get your hands dirty. I looked at Gu Bichuan, my gaze calm and rational. Tonight is a major holiday. Bloodshed is inauspicious. Besides, if you kill her, what will you do with the body? If someone discovers it, the news that the Crown Prince of Pingxi killed his mistress will spread. Do you want to ruin your political career? Gai Huan's hand was trembling. It was the exhaustion that follows extreme rage. He looked at me, his eyes filled with helplessness and dependence. Wanner, then what do you suggest we do? That madwoman, I don't want to see her for another moment. Keeping her around will only bring trouble sooner or later. I smiled faintly, took the silk box from his hand and handed it to the guard behind him. Then, I walked up to Su Qing and looked down at her. Miss Su, you claim to love him, yet you nearly destroyed him. Is this what your love looks like? Su Qing raised her head, her face streaked with tears, her eyes filled with hatred. It's you. It's all your fault. If it weren't for you, Bichuan wouldn't have ended up like this. No. I shook my head, looking at her with pity. It's you who's never changed. You've been living in a dream, but Bichuan has already woken up. Since you're so foolish, staying in this world will only cause trouble for the Crown Prince. I turned and said to Gu Bichuan, Crown Prince, the Qingliang Temple, 30 li outside the city, is where the Marquise's household offers incense and prayers. It's a peaceful place, most suitable for cultivating one's mind and character. Tell everyone that Miss Su has lost her mind. To pray for the Marquise's household, she has voluntarily taken the veil and will practice Buddhism while keeping her hair. For the rest of her life, she must not set foot outside the temple gates. Gu Bichuan froze for a moment. Then, a look of relief flashed across his eyes. This was indeed the best solution. He wouldn't have to bear the guilt of murder, and he could completely rid himself of this burden. In fact, he might even earn a reputation for having done everything in his power. Very well. Gu Bichuan nodded, his voice cold and resolute. We shall do as you say, madam. Guards, bind this madwoman and send her to Qingliang Temple tonight. If she escapes, or if word gets out, you'll have your heads on a platter. Several burly maidservants immediately rushed forward, clamping their hands over Su Qing's mouth and dragging her out like a dead dog. Su Qing struggled desperately, her eyes fixed on Gu Bichuan in utter despair. But Gu Bichuan had already turned away, poring over the Civil Art of War by General Wei, not even sparing her a glance. The dilapidated temple finally fell silent. Only the lantern Su Qing had so carefully hung remained, swaying in the wind, a scene that seemed particularly ironic. Let's go, Your Highness. I smoothed his collar and spoke softly. The assistant minister is still waiting at Fanlu. Don't keep the distinguished guest waiting. Gu Bichuan took a deep breath, composed his expression, and resumed the confident demeanor of a young general. He clasped my hand tightly, his eyes brimming with gratitude and trust. Wanner, thank goodness for you. If it weren't for you, I truly wouldn't have known how to handle things tonight. From now on, everything in this marquise's mansion, and my affairs will be entirely up to you. I clasped his hand in return and smiled gently. You flatter me, your highness. Husband and wife are birds of a feather. Everything I've done has been for the Gue family, or our future. The carriage raced through the night toward the capital's most bustling entertainment district, Fanlu. Behind us, that dilapidated temple and that ridiculous romance were cast completely into the darkness. I had cleared the hurdle of Gu Bichuan. Su Qing was out of the picture, and I had finally completed my full takeover of Gu Bichuan. From this day forward, his body, his heart, his power, his interests, all were in my hands. But that was not enough. With the household secured, the next step was the imperial court. I would take this sharpened sword and face the heroes of the realm. 3 months after Su Qing was sent away, Gu Bichuan was promoted, thanks to that copy of Fevendi The Art of War by the Duke of Wei, his close relationship with the Vice Minister of Personnel, and his diligence at the Ministry of War, though in truth, it was my merit for reviewing his official documents every night. His Majesty issued an edict promoting the Crown Prince of Pingxi to Vice Minister of War, in charge of the Bureau of Military Selection and Civil Service. It was a lucrative post, and one with real power. When the news reached the Marquise's residence, the old lady couldn't stop smiling, and even my usually critical mother-in-law now looked at me with nothing but tenderness in her eyes. But I remained calm. I knew full well that this was only the first step. Although Gu Bichuan had been promoted, his foundation was too shallow. He was entirely propped up by the Marquise's ancestral prestige and the Prime Minister's family's influence. He was like a child forced into a high position, clutching a heavy hammer but unsure where to strike. Without me to guide him, he would sooner or later shatter himself to pieces. Wanner, now that I've entered the inner circle of the Ministry of War, my colleagues have been inviting me to banquets more frequently. Gu Bichuan returned from court, changing out of his official robes while looking somewhat troubled. Those civil officials speak in such roundabout ways, it gives me a real headache. Today, that Hanlin Academy scholar Wang was clearly implying between the lines that I'm a bore. I took his black official cap, brushed off the dust, and smiled calmly. Your Highness, there's no need to take it to heart. You come from a military background. If you were to nitpick over words like they do, the Emperor might actually grow wary that you're forming factions for personal gain. You just need to stick to one persona. Gu Bichuan froze. Persona? That's right. I looked him in the eyes and instructed him earnestly. In the Emperor's presence, you must be a loyal subject. You don't know how to scheme, you only know how to be loyal. If you occasionally let your straightforward temper show, that's just your true nature. In front of your colleagues, you must be a hero. Drink heartily, eat heartily, appear rough around the edges, but know exactly what you're doing. As for all that backstabbing and scheming, I smoothed out the wrinkles on his collar, my tone gentle yet firm. Leave that to me. You charge into battle, I'll clear the path behind you. Gu Bichuan looked at me, his eyes brimming with reliance. He nodded firmly. All right, I'll do as you say, madam. This is exactly the dynamic I want. The man handles external affairs, while the woman manages the household. No, we are one. I am the brain, and he is the limbs. Just as Gu Bichuan has established himself in the imperial court, I must also pave the way for him in the social circles of the inner quarters. The circle of noble ladies in the capital is in essence a second court. News of which family's master is to be promoted or which young master is to marry a princess often first surfaces in the flower parlors. On this day, the Grand Princess's mansion hosted a flower viewing banquet. The wives and daughters of the capital's powerful families were all on the guest list. Dressed in a formal purple first-rank noblewoman's robe, my makeup dignified and elegant, I arrived at the banquet on time with Chun Dao. At the banquet, cups clinked and laughter filled the air, but I keenly sensed a hostile gaze fixed upon me. It was the wife of Censor Li. Censor Li belonged to the faction of upright civil officials who looked down upon noble military families. He had submitted no shortage of memorials, criticizing Gu Bichuan in the imperial court. Sure enough, after 3 rounds of wine, Lady Li spoke up. Oh my, young Lady Gu, that purple gown you're wearing today certainly exudes an air of nobility. Mrs. Li twirled her wine cup as she spoke in a sarcastic tone. But I've heard that the Crown Prince caused quite a stir in the city recently over a mistress, and even went so far as to attempt murder in broad daylight. In distinguished families like ours, we place the utmost importance on self-cultivation and maintaining order within the household. Such behavior on the part of the Crown Prince is surely a breach of propriety, isn't it? The room fell silent. Everyone was waiting to see me make a fool of myself, or to see me fly into a rage. After all, it was a family scandal. I set down my chopsticks, picked up a silk handkerchief, and gently wiped the corner of my mouth with the utmost elegance. Then I lifted my head to meet Lady Li's gaze, smiling before I spoke. Lady Li is well informed, but you know only part of the story. Oh, Lady Li raised an eyebrow. I surveyed the room, my clear voice carrying across the hall. That woman was indeed once an acquaintance of the Crown Prince. But upon learning of her ulterior motives, her attempt to steal state documents, the Crown Prince, acting in the greater good, cut ties with her and sent her to a secluded place to atone for her sins. Though the Crown Prince values loyalty when it comes to matters of principle, he places the law of the land and the family code above all else. The emperor once said, "Those who govern the military must possess the resolve of thunder." The Crown Prince's actions were precisely to ensure that family affairs do not disrupt state affairs. At this point, I paused, my gaze growing sharp. "It is you, Lady Li, who are at fault. It is the duty of the censorate to report matters as they arise, but to drag the gossip of women in the inner quarters into the imperial court is, to say the least, petty. If His Majesty were to learn that the Grand Censor has devoted his energies to prying into the inner workings of another's household, I wonder what he would think." Lady Li's face instantly turned the color of a pig's liver. She hadn't expected that. Far from covering it up, I would instead elevate the matter to the level of sacrificing family for the greater good and matters of state and military. I had even turned the tables on her. The Grand Princess, seated at the head of the table, nodded approvingly after hearing these words. "Young Lady Gu speaks well. A general must be decisive in matters of life and death. That Prince Gu is not entangled by romantic entanglements is a blessing for the state." The Grand Princess settled the matter with her final word. Far from bringing shame upon me, this incident only solidified Gu Bichuan's reputation for separating public and private affairs and loyalty to the nation. After the banquet, several ladies who had previously remained on the sidelines approached me to strike up a conversation. I responded with a smile, committing each of these connections to memory. This, I realized, was the true source of whispering in the ear. However, the shifting tides of the imperial court moved far faster than I had imagined. Half a month later, late one night, Gu Bichuan rushed into my room in a panic, his outer robe still half-fastened, his face as pale as paper. "Wanner, something's happened." He plopped down into a chair, the teacup in his hand trembling. "What is it?" I threw on a robe and rose, signaling Chundao to stand guard outside the door and not let anyone approach. "The military rations for the northern frontier. There's a problem." Gu Bichuan's voice trembled. "Someone has reported that the winter uniforms allocated by the Ministry of War to the northern frontier garrison are filled with reed fluff, not cotton at all. His Majesty is furious and has ordered a thorough investigation. That batch of winter uniforms was allocated by my very department." My heart sank. This is a major scandal. Embezzling military funds and passing off inferior goods as the real thing. These are capital offenses. "Did you take a kickback?" I stared into his eyes and asked in a low voice. "No, absolutely not." Gu Bichuan swore frantically. "I've only just taken over. How could I dare pull a stunt like that? It was all handled by the people below me. I just signed off on it." "I see. He's taking the fall. Or perhaps it's a trap set by political enemies, specifically waiting for this greenhorn of a newcomer to walk right into it. You signed it, so the responsibility is yours." I analyzed the situation calmly. The Emperor is furious right now. If this is proven true, you won't escape blame. At best, you'll lose your office and title. At worst, you'll be exiled 1,000 miles away. Gu Bichuan was completely panicked. He grabbed my hand as if clutching a lifeline. "Wanner, save me. I don't want to die. The Marquise's estate must not be ruined on my watch." Looking at this man before me, utterly at a loss, I felt not a trace of panic. On the contrary, I felt a tinge of excitement. This was a crisis, but it was also a golden opportunity. If I could help him weather this storm, my standing in his heart would surpass that of a deity. "Don't panic." I poured him a cup of hot tea, forcing him to calm down. "Bring me all the relevant case files, the list of those involved, and copies of the documents you've signed. I won't be sleeping tonight. I'm going to break this trap." The entire night, the light in the study never went out. I pored over the thick files, rapidly piecing together every possible scenario in my mind. Finally, as the first light of dawn began to appear on the horizon, I found a flaw. The supplier of this batch of winter clothing was the brother-in-law of the Minister of Revenue, and the person who reported this matter was none other than the Vice Minister of Revenue. This was no simple case of embezzlement. It was an internal power struggle within the Ministry of Revenue. A clash of titans, and Gu Bichuan, a newcomer to the Ministry of War, had been caught in the crossfire. "Listen, Bichuan." I jotted down my organized thoughts on a piece of paper and handed it to him. "At this morning's court session, His Majesty will certainly hold you accountable. Don't try to defend yourself and don't cry foul." Gu Bichuan's eyes widened. "Don't cry foul. Doesn't that mean I'm admitting guilt?" "Crying foul is useless," I said coldly. "Your signature and seal are there. Crying foul is just shifting the blame. The Emperor hates nothing more than those who lack responsibility. What you must do is take the blame upon yourself, and then shift the blame elsewhere." I pointed to the strategy on the paper, instructing him step by step. "Once you enter the throne hall, first remove your official cap, kneel, and beg for forgiveness. Say you failed in your oversight, misjudged people, and betrayed the Emperor's grace. You are willing to accept any punishment. Wait until the Emperor has finished scolding you. Then present this memorial. This memorial details every step of this batch of winter clothing, from procurement to storage, with special emphasis on the background of that supplier. You must speak with deep remorse. Though I am at fault, it appears someone has deceived your Majesty and lined their own pockets. I humbly request that your Majesty dispatch the Supreme Court to thoroughly investigate the source of the supply and restore justice to the soldiers of the northern frontier. This tactic is called sacrificing the chariot to save the general. or using someone else's knife to kill. Gu Bichuan admitted his incompetence, but cleared himself of any suspicion of embezzlement. At the same time, he directed the blame toward a relative of the Minister of Revenue. Once this blade is thrust out, the emperor's wrath will be diverted. Compared to an incompetent assistant minister of war, the emperor hates that big tiger in the Ministry of Revenue even more, the one who has been forming factions and embezzling military rations right under his nose. Have you remembered? I stared at Gu Bichuan, my gaze stern. Every expression, every movement, even when to shed tears, must be done exactly as I've instructed. Your life depends on it. Gu Bichuan clutched the paper tightly, his eyes filled with resolve. I've remembered. Wanner, if I survive today, my life, Gu Bichuan's life, is yours. That morning's court session was said to be heart-stopping. I paced restlessly in the mansion. Though I'd run through the scenario countless times, the emperor's mind is unfathomable. No one could guarantee it would go off without a hitch. It wasn't until noon. Gu Bichuan returned. He was brought back in a carriage from the palace. Though he was no longer wearing his official cap and his robes were somewhat disheveled, he was unharmed, his face still radiating the ecstasy of having narrowly escaped death. Wanner. The moment he entered the door, he rushed over and held me tightly. He held me so tightly, as if he wanted to merge me into his very flesh and blood. It worked. It worked. His voice choked with emotion, and he was so overcome that he could barely form coherent sentences. I did exactly as you said. The emperor read the memorial, flew into a rage, and immediately ordered the Ministry of Justice to arrest that imperial merchant. The Minister of Revenue has also been suspended, pending investigation. Although the emperor scolded me, docked half a year's salary, and demoted me by 1 rank while retaining my post, he praised me, saying, "Though there were oversights, your sincerity is commendable, and your courage to speak frankly is admirable." The weight on my heart finally lifted. I gently patted his back, feeling his heart racing. It's all right now. It's over. Gu Bichuan let go of me and dropped to his knees before me with a thud. Your Highness, what are you doing? I feigned surprise and reached out to help him up, but he refused to rise, lifting his head to look at me with reddened eyes. Wanner, my legs were shaking in the throne room today. It was that piece of paper you gave me that saved my life. I used to think that as a general, I could stand tall and face the world. Now I realize that without you, in this cutthroat capital, not even a single bone would be left of me. He pulled a black iron token from his robe. It was the mobilization order for the private army of the Marquis of Pingshi's estate, and the Gu family's final trump card. Wanner, from this day forward, you are in charge of this estate. I, Gu Bichuan, am also at your command. If you tell me to go east, I will never go west. If you tell me to kill someone, I will show no mercy. I looked at the heavy token, and a genuine smile finally curved my lips. I took the token and clasped it tightly in my hand. This was not merely a piece of iron. It was a scepter of power. In the game of this marriage, at this very moment, I had won completely. I had not only tamed my husband, but also taken control of his soul and his strength. Your Highness, please rise. I gently helped him up and wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes. We are husband and wife. We share both glory and disgrace. As long as you trust me, I will stand by your side and stir up the winds of change across this realm. Gu Bichuan looked at me, his eyes filled with adoration and reverence. In his eyes, I was no longer the wife in need of protection. Instead, I was his pillar of strength, his goddess, the sovereign to whom he owed absolute obedience. Very well. Internal troubles have been resolved. External threats have been temporarily pacified. Gu Bichuan has now become a sharp sword in my hand. Next, it is time for us, this political couple, to make our final sprint toward the pinnacle of power. That supreme throne, though we cannot sit upon it ourselves, but we can be the ones who decide who gets to sit there. After the Northern Frontier Army pay scandal, although Gu Bichuan was demoted by 1 rank, his standing in the emperor's eyes actually grew stronger. Because of his loyalty, because of his isolation. This is precisely the portrait of a minister, most favored by an emperor. However, the political winds in the court are quietly shifting. The old emperor is in poor health, and the rivalry among the princes has escalated from undercurrents to open conflict. Although the crown prince held the right of succession, he was timid by nature and had been severely weakened by the downfall of the Minister of Revenue, a key ally of the crown prince. The third prince's maternal clan was powerful and ambitious, and they were actively courting military factions. Even the 7th prince, who had always kept a low profile, had begun to build his influence frequently within literary circles. The time to choose sides has come. That evening, Gu Bichuan returned with a furrowed brow, bearing 2 pieces of news. One was an invitation from the 3rd prince to visit his residence to view his horses. The other was a hint from the grand tutor to the crown prince that if he could demonstrate his loyalty at this critical juncture, he would surely be richly rewarded in the future. Wanner, what do you think we should do? Gu Bichuan looked at me, completely at a loss. He had grown accustomed to leaving these life and death decisions to me. I set down my teacup and tapped my fingers lightly on the table. Neither. I uttered those 3 words. Gu Bichuan froze. Neither. But wouldn't that mean we defend both sides? The situation is still unclear. Whoever sticks their neck out becomes a target. I walked to the desk, unfolded a sheet of rice paper, and wrote 2 characters, 7th prince. Gu Bichuan was taken aback. The 7th prince. He has no power or influence, and his mother was merely a palace maid. Precisely because he has no power or influence is he the safest choice, and the one with the most potential. A gleam flashed in my eyes as I began to break down this grand strategic game for him. Though the Crown Prince is the legitimate heir, what the Emperor fears most is the Crown Prince forming factions. The incident involving the Minister of Revenue has already made the Emperor dissatisfied with him. The third prince is too brash, and he faces the threat of his maternal clan's influence, a major taboo for any ruler. Only the seventh prince remains. He has long bided his time, and is widely regarded as a man of virtue among the common people. Moreover, he has no powerful maternal clan, which means that once he ascends, he will have no choice but to rely on US loyal ministers. If we were to stoke the Crown Prince's dying embers now, that would be foolish loyalty. If we were to kiss the third prince's stinking feet, that would be opportunism. But if we were to secretly support the seventh prince, that would be the merit of following the dragon. Gu Bichuan's blood ran hot at the words. Merit in following the dragon. The allure of those 4 words was enough to drive any man mad. But how do we support him? Simple. I burned the piece of paper inscribed with seventh prince, watching the ashes scatter in the basin. Out in the open, you'll keep playing dumb and acting like a loyal minister, offending no one, befriending no one. Behind the scenes, we'll gradually funnel the Ministry of War's resources toward the seventh prince. For instance, for this mission to suppress bandits in the southern frontier, you can recommend that frustrated young officer under the seventh prince's command. Or you could casually mention to His Majesty that the seventh prince has keen insights regarding the reorganization of military records. Like rain that nourishes the earth without a sound. When the critical moment arrives, we'll fan the flames between those 2 princes locked in a bitter struggle. Gu Bichuan looked at me, the awe in his eyes deepening. He likely never imagined that his own bedfellow was scheming over the fate of the empire. Very well. He clenched his fist. For our future, let's take this huge gamble. The struggle for the throne was growing ever more intense. The Crown Prince and the Third Prince were locked in a bitter struggle, trading accusations back and forth, leaving the imperial court in a state of utter chaos. Meanwhile, following my strategy, Gu Bichuan remained aloof and uninvolved, becoming a neutral party that both sides sought to court, yet dared not offend. Just then, trouble arose involving Su Qing, who had been exiled to Qingliang Temple. The news came from one of Gao Bichuan's confidants. Apparently, the Third Prince's men had somehow learned of Su Qing's whereabouts and had actually sent someone to contact her. They intended to exploit her resentment toward Gu Bichuan to obtain compromising evidence against him, thereby forcing him to take sides. That foolish woman. Upon hearing the news, Gu Bichuan was so enraged he smashed a cup. I spared her life, and yet she dares to collude with outsiders to harm me. This time, he didn't hesitate for a moment. He turned to look at me, his eyes flashing with murderous intent. Warner, you're right. If you don't uproot the weed, it will sprout again when the spring breeze blows. Leave this matter to me. I pressed down on his hand as he reached for his sword, my tone as calm as if I were discussing today's weather. You're the target of everyone's attention right now. Countless eyes are on you. If you take action yourself, you'll be giving the Third Prince the perfect excuse. Then, what should I do? Let someone else do the killing. I smiled, a dangerous gleam in my eyes. Since the Third Prince wants to use her, let's let him use her to his heart's content. 3 days later, a confidential letter exposing the Marquise's household for embezzling military horses and trafficking in arms was leaked through Su Qing. Of course, the letter was a forgery. I had fabricated it, but I convinced Su Qing that this was her perfect opportunity to take revenge on Gu Bichuan and curry favor with the Third Prince. That foolish woman took the bait, just as I expected. Thinking she'd found a lifeline, she couldn't wait to hand the letter over to the Third Prince's confidant. The Third Prince was overjoyed when he received it. The contents appeared to be evidence of Gu Bichuan's crimes, but in reality they contained a special seal mark. This mark did not belong to Gu Bichuan. It came from my father, an ancient document hidden in the secret archives of the current Chancellor's study. It recorded the top secret code used by His Majesty during his struggle for the throne to secretly maintain a corps of loyal assassins and purge his opponents. This was His Majesty's dark past and his Achilles heel. Apart from the key ministers involved at the time, no one in the world knew of it. If the Third Prince were to present a letter bearing this symbol to claim credit, what would that mean in the Emperor's eyes? It would mean that the Third Prince had been secretly investigating the Emperor's movements and might even have infiltrated the Emperor's inner circle of top secret affairs from back then, intending to dig up dirt on the Emperor. When the Third Prince triumphantly produced this letter in the imperial court to accuse Gu Bichuan, the Emperor's expression changed instantly. It wasn't because of the evidence against Gu Bichuan, but because he had seen that ghostly seal. Fear and suspicion instantly overwhelmed the bond between father and son. Rebellious son. The Emperor's face darkened with rage. His hands trembling, he slammed the memorial down on the Third Prince's face. Who gave you the audacity to investigate such matters? Are you plotting a rebellion or trying to force a coup? The Third Prince was completely dumbfounded, unable to defend himself. He had no idea what taboo he had crossed. As for Su Qing, who served as both witness and source, she naturally became, in the Emperor's eyes, an accomplice of the rebels who had dared to pry into the imperial family's dark secrets. The Emperor issued an immediate order to execute her. It was Gu Bichuan himself who delivered this imperial decree. It was said that when Su Qing saw Gu Bichuan at Qingliang Temple that day, she had thought he had come to save her. That was until Gu Bichuan coldly placed the poisoned wine before her and said, In your next life, don't meddle in schemes you don't understand. When Su Qing died, her eyes were wide open, refusing to close in death. Until her dying breath, she never understood how she, a mere pawn, had been led to her doom by Gu Bixuan and me working in tandem. With Su Qing's death, the third prince was placed under house arrest, and the crown prince's faction was purged on a massive scale due to their involvement. The political landscape in the court became instantly clear. The seventh prince, who had remained on the sidelines, finally stepped into the limelight. As for Gu Bixuan, as the wrongfully accused victim and a loyal minister, he was once again promoted and ennobled, becoming a true confidant of the emperor. The night before the seventh prince was proclaimed crown prince, he summoned Gu Bixuan in secret. I accompanied them, though I was disguised as an attendant standing behind a screen. The seventh prince, the future heir apparent, looked at Gu Bixuan and asked meaningfully, "Minister Giu, I've heard that the lady of your household is a female Zhuge Liang?" It was a test. It was also a warning. An emperor has no need for a minister who is too clever, and he fears even more a woman capable of swaying the affairs of state. Gu Bixuan stiffened, but he quickly recalled my earlier instructions. He dropped to his knees with a thud and said with a guileless expression, "Your Highness overpraises her. My wife is merely a bit clever. She helps me manage the accounts from time to time. The reason I have risen to my current position is entirely due to your Highness's patronage and the Emperor's grace. I am a simple man. I only know that whoever is kind to me, I will serve with my life." The seventh prince stared at him for a long time, as if trying to discern the truth. Finally, he smiled. "Minister Gu is indeed a man of integrity. Rise. I lack loyal ministers like you by my side." Hiding behind the screen, I let out a sigh of relief. Gu Bixuan had passed the test. He had successfully cast himself as a blunt sword, one fit only for an emperor to wield. Seemingly reckless, yet truly loyal. That was the safest way to survive. In the carriage back to the mansion, Gu Bixuan slumped in his seat, his back drenched in cold sweat. "Wanner, that really scared the life out of me just now. If His Highness were to find out that you orchestrated all of this behind the scenes, he will never know." I took his hand, my tone firm. "From now on, all the credit will be yours. I am merely an ordinary woman of the Gu household, tending to my husband and raising our children, uninvolved in worldly affairs. Only in this way can we survive for the long haul. Such is the wisdom of a statesman. Outshining one's sovereign is a cardinal sin. The finest strategy is not to stand in the spotlight and bask in the adoration of the masses, but to hide in the shadows and manipulate the direction of the light." Gu Bixuan looked at me, his eyes brimming with tears. He pulled me into his embrace. "Wanner, I've put you through so much. It's nothing." I leaned against him, listening to the clatter of the carriage wheels, my heart filled with peace. What I've ever wanted has never been those empty titles. What I want is a tangible sense of control. It is the thrill of watching this man, this family, and indeed the entire realm, all operating according to my will. This thrill is far more intense than any title could ever be. Time flies. 10 years have passed in the blink of an eye. The seventh prince had long since ascended the throne, establishing the Jian era. Gu Bixuan was now a first-rank official of the court, holding the post of chief of the imperial secretariat while concurrently serving as minister of war, wielding supreme authority over the empire's military forces. As for me, as the wife of the Marquis of Pingxi and the de facto head of the prime minister's household, after my father retired, he entrusted his entire network to me. I had become the undisputed authority among the women of the capital. We have truly become a power that dominates both court and country. Yet in this position, the higher one climbs, the colder it grows. One day, Gu Bixuan returned from court looking somewhat despondent. "Wanner, at this morning's court session, His Majesty rejected my memorial once again." He removed his heavy purple robe and jade sash, sinking into the armchair. A few strands of gray had already begun to appear at his temples. "This is the third time. Is His Majesty beginning to fear me?" This was a dangerous sign. When the birds are gone, the bow is put away. Gu Bixuan's sword was too sharp. Now that the empire was at peace, the emperor naturally found it a bit cumbersome. I walked up behind him and began massaging his shoulders with practiced ease. "Crown Prince." "Oh no, Marquis." I corrected myself with a smile, my tone as calm as ever. "His Majesty isn't wary of you. He's giving you a warning. The power in your hands is too great. What should I do? Am I supposed to hand over my military authority?" Gu Bixuan felt a mix of reluctance and resentment. "Not only must you hand it over, but you must do so with grace." I leaned in and whispered softly into his ear. "At tomorrow's morning court session, submit a memorial requesting to inspect the northern frontier and reorganize military affairs. Leave the capital this place of strife and temporarily entrust the seal of the chief of the Privy Council to His Majesty's custody. This is called retreating to advance." Gu Bixuan hesitated. "But once I hand it over, will I ever be able to get it back?" "As long as I remain in the capital, as long as the foundation of the Prime Minister's office stands, and as long as you remain the Gu Bixuan, who strikes fear into the hearts of the barbarians in the northern frontier. As for this military authority, His Majesty trusts no one else but you. You must understand that for an emperor, a sword that sheathes itself is the most trustworthy of all." Gu Bixuan was silent for a long time before finally taking my hand. Those hands, from years of holding a brush to review official documents, had developed thin calluses on the pads of his fingers. "Wanner, if it weren't for you, I'm afraid my head would have been moved to a new home several times over. As long as you're here, I fear nothing." The next day, Gu Bichuan volunteered to patrol the border. The emperor was overjoyed. Not only did he grant the request, but he also conferred upon him the title of Grand Tutor and bestowed countless rewards. This move once again turned danger into safety and further enhanced the imperial favor bestowed upon us as a couple. During the time Gu Bichuan was in the northern frontier, I managed the Marquise's estate on my own. With nothing else to do, I had the storeroom of old belongings organized. In the corner of a dust-covered chest, I unearthed a tattered rabbit-shaped lantern. It was the one Su Qing had intended to give to Gu Bichuan on the Lantern Festival all those years ago. That harrowing night, thinking back on it now, feels as distant as a memory from a past life. "Madam, this thing brings bad luck. Should we throw it away?" Chundao said, disdainfully from beside me. I held the lantern, staring at it for a long time. "No need." I smiled and casually tossed it into the charcoal brazier, which was burning fiercely. The flames instantly engulfed the rabbit. The paper lantern twisted and charred in the fire, finally turning to ashes. Just like that woman named Su Qing and that so-called true love. In this crucible of power, no unrealistic fantasy can survive. Only self-interest endures forever. I recalled the despair in Su Qing's eyes as she lay dying. If she were aware of this from beyond the grave, seeing Gu Bichuan's overwhelming power today, I wonder if she would regret her naivety back then. No, she wouldn't understand. Some people are destined to live only in the small world of romance and love. But Gu Bichuan and I, we belong to this vast and cruel world. 3 years later, Gu Bichuan returned from his border patrol. This time, he brought back a letter of surrender from the barbarian tribes of the northern frontier. The entire nation rejoiced. The emperor personally led the court officials 10 li outside the city to welcome him. At the victory banquet, Gu Bichuan stood in full military regalia, radiating heroic vigor. Though he had passed the age of 30, he now possessed the charm and dignity of a mature man. Under the gaze of the crowd, he walked toward the high platform, but he did not bow to the emperor immediately. Instead, he turned and bowed deeply to me, seated at the head of the women's section. "Your servant owes today's achievements entirely to the support of my virtuous wife at home. In this light, I wish only to grow old with my wife, united in heart, and together safeguard this magnificent land." The entire hall gasped, followed by thunderous applause. The emperor was also greatly pleased and immediately bestowed upon me the honorary title of Lady Protector of the Realm. I stood up and returned Gu Bichuan's bow from afar. Our gazes met. In each other's eyes, we saw our truest selves. Gone were the flutters of youth and the so-called romantic entanglements. What remained was absolute trust forged through trials and tribulations, and an indissoluble bond forged by shared interests. He is my sword, carving out new territories for me. I am his scabbard, tempering his edge. We are husband and wife, but more than that, we are allies, the most indestructible power alliance in the great Zhou dynasty. After the banquet, in the carriage on the way back to the mansion, Gu Bichuan was a little tipsy. Leaning against my shoulder, he mumbled like a child. "Wanner, actually, on the day of our wedding, I was really afraid you'd call off the engagement." I gently stroked his hair, gazing out at the bustling nightscape of the capital. "I know, but how could I possibly let you go? A pawn as useful as you. Oh no, my husband won. Like that is hard to find in this world." Gu Bichuan didn't catch the word in the middle. He only heard, "my husband," smiled contentedly, and fell into a deep sleep. I gazed at his sleeping face, a meaningful curve forming at the corner of my mouth. That farce in the blizzard finally drew to a perfect close at that moment. Su Qing asked, "Did I ever truly exist in your heart?" That question, in truth, no longer mattered, because in this world of adults, where the heart lies is irrelevant. What matters is where one stands, and in whose hands the power lies. And now, he is by my side. The world lies in our hands. That is enough. End of main story. Extra Chapter 1. Winter of the 5th year of the Giant Era. Snow swirled outside the window, much like the day of my wedding all those years ago. Except now, in the study of the Marquis of Pingxi's mansion, there was not a trace of chill. The underfloor heating radiated warmth, and a steamer held a pot of fine pear blossom white tea. The 7-year-old crown prince, Gu Heng, sat cross-legged before the desk, a black stone clutched in his hand as he frowned at the chessboard. Seated across from him was Gu Bichuan, the chief of the imperial secretariat whose power now dominated the realm. "Henger, you've lost this game." Gu Bichuan pointed to the large group of stones trapped on the board, his tone carrying a father's sternness, yet also a hint of smug satisfaction. As the art of war says, one must place oneself in a position of no retreat to find a way out. "You were so reckless, focused only on capturing my vanguard, yet you forgot to secure your own rear." Gu Heng lifted his head, and a flash of cunning crossed his almond-shaped eyes that resembled mine so closely. "Father, have I really lost?" The moment that childish voice fell, Gu Bichuan froze. Gu Heng waved his small hand, but instead of placing a stone on the large group, he slammed one down with a sharp click in the most inconspicuous corner of the board. That was the center point. In an instant, the tide of the game turned. Although Gu Bichuan's large group had surrounded Gu Heng, this single move severed the chi of all his stones. Though it was a narrow victory, Gu Bichuan's entire army was annihilated. Gu Bichuan's eyes widened. "Who taught you this underhanded, ingenious move?" I set down the ledger in my hands and stepped out from behind the screen, a faint smile playing at the corners of my mouth. "I did." Gu Bichuan immediately stood up and pulled out a chair for me with a practiced ease that was almost heartbreaking. "Wanner, wasn't that move a bit too risky? If I'd spotted that piece in the corner earlier, In this game, no one pays attention to the corners. I ruffled Gu Heng's hair, looking at this miniature version of Gu Bichuan with great satisfaction. Father taught you military strategy and formation. Those are open, straightforward tactics meant for head-on clashes on the battlefield. What Mother taught you is the treacherous nature of human hearts. It's about finding a way out of a hopeless situation. Gu Heng lifted his little face, looking at me with admiration. Mother is right. Today at the Imperial Academy, my cousin tried to trip me, so I deliberately stood in the teacher's path. And what happened? Gu Beichuan asked anxiously. Well, my cousin didn't trip me. Instead, he knocked the teacher right into the pond. Gu Heng blinked his eyes, looking completely innocent. The teacher made my cousin copy the Book of Rites 100 times, and he even praised me for remaining calm in a crisis and respecting teachers and the way, because I was the first to call for help to rescue the teacher. Gu Beichuan sucked in a sharp breath and turned to look at me, his expression complex. Wanner, this child is only 7 years old. His heart is too dark. Oh no, too deep, isn't it? I picked up my teacup and gently skimmed off the foam. A little darkness is good. In this capital, white lotuses don't last long. If you'd had even half the cunning Hanger has back then, I wouldn't have had to go to such great lengths to prune your branches. Gu Beichuan flushed and fell silent, looking sheepish. He knew exactly who I was referring to. It was an unspoken taboo between us and the beginning of his complete submission. After supper, Gu Heng was taken to bed by his wet nurse. Gu Beichuan and I sat facing each other, drinking. After 3 rounds of wine, Gu Beichuan was slightly tipsy. He gazed at the heavy snow falling outside the window, his eyes a little unfocused. Wanner. He spoke suddenly, his voice low and husky. Today, Hanger asked me why. Every year on the Lantern Festival, I forbid rabbit lanterns from being lit in the mansion. My hand holding the wine cup paused slightly. Rabbit lanterns. Su Qing's favorite thing, and also the evidence that nearly ruined Gu Beichuan's future back then. How did you answer him? I asked calmly. Gu Beichuan turned his head to look at me, his eyes clear, without a trace of the hesitation and struggle he'd once shown. I told him it was a mistake I made in my youth, a foolish mistake that nearly cost the entire family. I told him to remember, indulging in pleasures leads to ruin, and deep passion does not last. I smiled. In that moment, I was truly happy. Time is not only a butcher's knife, but also the finest sculpting tool. It has finally carved that impassioned youth, whose mind was filled with notions of one life, one love, one couple, into the cold, rational, and even somewhat ruthless statesman he is today. Your Highness, you have truly come to understand. I raised my cup and clinked it lightly against his. Gu Beichuan took my hand and drained his cup in one gulp. It's not clarity. He looked at me, his eyes filled with dependence and a kind of love that had soured yet grown even stronger. It's fear. I'm afraid of losing my current power, afraid of losing the glory of the Marquise's estate. Even more, I'm afraid of losing you. Wanner, sometimes when I watch you teach Hangar, I feel a chill run down my spine. But I'm also relieved that this blade is in my hand. I wrapped my fingers around his, my fingertips gently tracing the palm of his hand. As long as you're good, this blade will only ever be drawn for you. It was late at night. Gu Beichuan fell into a deep sleep, his brow relaxed, a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. He was happy, though this happiness was a cage I had painstakingly woven. But I had given him everything a man could desire: status, dignity, an heir, and a wife powerful enough for him to look up to. As for love, that is something only children speak of. What exists between us is something higher than love symbiosis. I blew out the red candle. In the darkness, I listened to the sound of wind and snow outside the window, my heart filled with peace. That farce in the blizzard, that woman who asked, "Do you have me in your heart?" She has long since turned to dust. And I, Lin Wan, am sitting here in this warm room, guarding my husband, my son, and the empire I have built. This, I suppose, is the ending a winner deserves. Extra Chapter 2. Winter at Qingliang Temple is far colder than at the Marquise's mansion. There are no underfloor heating systems here, no red-glazed charcoal stoves, only the bone-chilling wind pouring through the dilapidated window frames and the never-ending pile of fallen leaves. My name is Su Qing. Once I was the one Gu Beichuan, the heir to the Marquis of Pingxi, held dearest to his heart. Now, I am a mad nun living in this temple, practicing in place of others, with the monastic name Wangshen. The irony is, in my entire life, I have never forgotten the world, nor have I ever forgotten him. I often think back to that Lantern Festival 3 years ago. Back then, Gu Beichuan had not yet donned the purple robes and jade sash. He was not yet the powerful minister who spoke endlessly of family, country, and the world. He was simply my Beichuan. He would sneak over the high walls of the Marquise's mansion, just to give me a simple rabbit lantern. On snowy days, he would tuck my icy hands into his chest and say with a silly grin, "Shinger, once I've earned military glory, I'll have you carried into my home in a palanquin." Back then, I believed him. I believed love could transcend social status, and that true devotion could melt even the coldest ice. Until that woman named Lin Wan appeared. I first saw Lin Wan the moment she intercepted the wedding palanquin, on my wedding day. I had imagined it countless times. She would humiliate me, have me beaten, or even call off the marriage in public. If she had done any of those things, Gu Beichuan would surely have felt heartbroken for me and stood up to the whole world for my sake. That was exactly the outcome I wanted. But she didn't. She merely smiled faintly, stepped down from the wedding palanquin, and helped me to my feet. In that moment, I felt like a pathetic clown. With a thick cloak and the words, "Don't let yourself catch a chill," she effortlessly stripped me of my victim status. Later, once we entered the Marquise's mansion, she gave me the listening to snow pavilion, provided me with fine clothes and sumptuous food, and even exempted me from the household rules. I thought this was her weakness, her attempt to win me over. It wasn't until much later, in this drafty temple, that I finally understood. That wasn't charity. It was captivity. She kept me like a pet, yet she clipped all my wings. She sent Gubeichuan off to attend to important matters, to pursue his future. And she left me trapped in that exquisite cage waiting day after day. Waiting drives one mad. Waiting makes a person hideous. I started causing a scene, throwing tantrums, and using every trick in the book to prove that Gubeichuan still loved me. And every time when I cried myself hoarse, Lin Wan would stand by, watching quietly. That look in her eyes wasn't jealousy, nor was it anger. It was the gaze of someone watching a play, watching a trapped beast, bit by bit, batter itself until it was bloodied and bruised. Did I do something wrong? Was it wrong just to want my lover back? That night, a mysterious figure approached me, saying that if I did as they asked, they could help me bring Lin Wan down and bring Guichuan back to me. I believed them. I was so desperate to grasp at any lifeline, even if that lifeline was coated in poison. But I wasn't afraid, because I believed that Gubeichuan loved me. After all, I was his Qing heir. That day, the cell door opened. Gubeichuan walked in. He was wearing a brand new official robe, looking so imposing, so unfamiliar. He held a cup of wine in his hand. Beichuan. I crawled toward him, crying, trying to cling to his legs. You're here to save me, aren't you? Gubeichuan took a step back, avoiding my hands, as if he were avoiding something filthy. Su Qing. He called me by my full name, his voice as cold as the wind in this temple. You are truly foolish. So foolish that you let yourself be used as a pawn, yet thought you were helping me. Do you know what was in that letter of yours? It was the Emperor's red line. Did you intend to drag the entire Du family down with you? I froze. I shook my head frantically. I didn't know. I really didn't know. I just wanted you to see me. See you? Gubeichuan laughed, a laugh filled with bitter sarcasm. See how you've ruined me. See how you've turned me into a laughingstock throughout the entire capital. Drink it. He set the wine cup on the ground. This was bestowed by His Majesty. It is also the last shred of dignity I've begged for you. The moment the poisoned wine touched my throat, it didn't actually hurt. Instead, there was a sense of liberating relief. As my vision began to blur, I saw Gubeichuan's back as he turned and walked away, resolute, without a trace of lingering affection. In that moment, I finally understood everything. From the very beginning, I had lost. I lost because I believed love was the entirety of life, and Lin Wan won because she knew love was merely an embellishment to power. Gubeichuan has never changed. He has never loved any one specific woman. What he loves is the version of himself that makes him feel comfortable, honored, and more valuable. In the past, I was the one who satisfied his vanity and desire to protect. Later, Lin Wan became the one who could propel him to great heights and bring glory to his family. So, he discarded me without hesitation. Just like discarding a pair of old, ill-fitting shoes. Lin Wan. I mustered my last ounce of strength to utter that name. I no longer hate her. I even admire her a little. She sees through human nature all too clearly. She has tamed this man all too well. If there is a next life, I refuse to be that lovesick fool blocking the palanquin in the snow and wind again. I want to be the one sitting atop a majestic steed, reins in hand, watching the spectacle with a cold, detached gaze. It's just a pity. I learned this lesson far too late. Epilogue, the end. Add me on WeChat, MI66618, for more recommended popular novels and short stories from platforms like Juhu, Taodiao, and Fanshi, including monthly subscription downloads and content sourcing services.